Up, family? My name is Keith with the Melly Method, and today we're going to be reviewing Sayun's TikTok. Her TikTok name goes by Yapperoni, which I love, and she's going to be talking about Gen Z and loneliness. Let's check it out.
About the Gen Z loneliness epidemic, how we're too easy to cut friends off. We don't want to be inconvenienced for the sake of community. Even with the discourse about your friend cheating on their significant other, like, would you rat them out, blah, blah, blah.
That's
And I
wild.
think all these conversations are just very telling of the Gen Z culture when it comes to friendships. And the biggest issue I just keep seeing is that so many of us are so fixed on the idea that there's good and bad and not an in between.
Facts.
And especially when it comes to friendships, I think we need to break this toxic thought.
Let's take a break and analyze this really quick. So Yapperoni in this situation, she's right. As a person that's been a counselor for over 10 years for college students and has seen the evolution of Gen Z and the way that they interact, this is something that is constructed by society. And it often gets blamed onto Gen Z. So I do want to say that to Suyam here. I'm being real with y'all. Everything on social media is you have to pick a side. You need to pick this side or you need to pick this side. And I think it all comes down to the stupid ass red pill, blue pill society that I think kind of shaped this landscape. And I'm not surprised that this is just like a standard operating procedure for Gen Z. It's all extremes. And it really has bled into the way that they interact with each other socially, especially through friendships. It's honestly it's really sad.
Our friends should be able to do everything with us. That our friends have to agree on
Facts.
everything that we think. And unfortunately, that's just not possible. But some of us have that so ingrained in our head that we would just rather be completely alone. And I think I'm able to say this so clearly because I go through the same thing. Just going back on like the friend cheating discourse, like there are just so many different situations you have to consider when you decide to either cut your friend out, distance yourself from your friend, or rat them out to their significant other.
Crazy.
Like we are way too quick to think, well, this happened, so I'm gonna do this. Like no, when something happens, you have to think about why it happened, where it happened, who it happened to, how it happened, and based on those things, people's answers will be different.
Yapperoni is 100% right in this situation. And I think it's because there was something that was missing in the education of Gen Z and like down that was taught to millennials and up, which was who, what, where, when, why. The five W's of questions that you should ask. I know it's more lenient, like it leans more into literature and all that stuff. But the honest truth is, when I do my counseling sessions, these are all these questions that I ask. The most important question is always why. And that is a question that Gen Z doesn't ask. Because when you ask why in a situation, now different perspectives can be put in, and it's not seen as black and white, good and evil, right and wrong. And the way the society has dumped their ideals onto this entire generation, their minds can only go into one of these two directions. And look how it affects their friendships. Terrible.
They're being different, that we immediately think that they're morally corrupt. Even with like a basic question of like, should you live with your friends? I feel like everyone always has like a go-to one or the other answer. Like I think it's super close-minded to think I would never be roommates with my friends. Just as I think it's super delusional to think I would be perfect roommates with all of my friends.
Sure.
When the most reasonable answer should be
Quick college counselor interjection here. I don't think you should live with your friends. I rarely ever see it work out. All of my students, that's like one of the number one rules I tell them when they get to school is don't live with your friends. And the reason for that is because you need to understand a boundary between somebody being your friend and somebody being your roommate. Those are two different things. You can have a very workable, cordial relationship with a roommate where it's like, hey, you stay on your side of the bed and your side of the room and I stay on my side. Lights turn off at this time, no talking on the phone past a certain time, and if you got a visitor coming over, you gotta let me know ahead of time and we could work something out. But when you have a friend, those those lines blur. And especially with a generation as non-confrontational as this generation, people just walk all over one another. And then before you know it, one person secretly hates the other and it falls apart. I've seen it too many times. So Gen Z, don't live with your friends. It'll be fine. And if you will, then you need to make sure that you have an open line of communication with one another, especially about things that you do not like about each other. That's how you can reach real growth.
I would be roommates with my friends that are most compatible with my lifestyle. Or even a really big one is like, should you start business with your friends? Should you work with your friends? Literally, same shit. I think it's super close minded to think, oh, I would never work with my friends professionally. I think it's just as delusional to think, well, if I started a business with any of my friends, it would all go well. And I feel like we all should be able to say, I would be open to working with my friends if we're compatible on a work ethic and business level. But no, we just end up having such stupid conversations and discourse when, like, a lot of this shit is just gray area. Like,
100%.
We refuse to see the gray between the black and white, you know? And this also just has to do with, like, having empathy and grace for the people you care about. And I can't help but think it has to do with something where we're so detached on social media, also with COVID, just, like, a bunch of other things that is just, like, not allowing us to be normal towards people.
Yeah, Baroni, I truly appreciate your video. Let me give some feedback here. At this moment, she's trying to understand why there's this huge gap between being able to communicate effectively with your friends or not. I'm going to tell you why. Through my experience, I have found out the reason why your generation has this huge gap in confrontation and communication. And the reason is because of isolation. I know I put a lot of bars in there somewhere, but pretty much with COVID especially, and the way that your generation grows up on your phones and speaking through people online, you spend a lot of that physical time by yourself. And with that physical time that you are alone, you are not making meaningful relationships with your friends. So what happens is, what I have seen from your generation, y'all find one friend, and this has to be the friend for the rest of your life. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You need to hold on to this person tight forever. And that is a big problem because you can ask anybody that's an adult. It doesn't even have to forget whatever generation they're in. You can ask anybody that's an adult, how many best friends have you had in your life? How many close friends have you lost in your life? How many people were riding with you? How many ex-girlfriends do you have? How many ex-boyfriends do you have? When you become older, people go in separate directions and people go in different ways in their lives. And your generation refuses to accept that. Y'all think that y'all need to hold on to somebody for dear life because you're scared that you won't find anybody else. And it's just wrong. And it's not true. And that's why you see people grow. You see one person growing apart in one direction and then the rest of their friends become basically followers because they don't want to let them go. And that's also why your generation can be so toxic to each other. Because somebody just outgrows another person or somebody's just stuck on somebody's ass the whole time and people get tired of it. So for you, Brony, my girl, I think that you brought up a very excellent question to your generation. I think that we need to start asking why. I think that the question of why needs to be circulating amongst your circles. And you don't need to disagree. Like you said in your caption. Y'all need to agree to disagree and be okay and still be friends even though y'all have opposing opinions on things. It doesn't define who you are as an entire individual. So for you, Yaparoni, my girl, let me go right here. Boom. Thank you so much. Y'all can find her on TikTok. And thank you for your opinion and thank you for your insight. So I'm looking forward to, hearing your perspective and hearing what anybody else got to say. That's all I got for you. Peace.